You may take your seats and remove your headgears. The President of the Republic of Botswana and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Advocate Gideon Duma Boko, Minister for State, President, Defense and Security, Honorable Moeti Mohasa, Permanent Secretary to the President, Me Mathiriso Bokole, Attorney General, Mr. Dick Bayford, Permanent Secretary to the Ministry of Finance, Dr. Tsokolo Alex Khanetsano, Acting Permanent Secretary to the Ministry for State, President, Defense and Security, Mr. Jerry Makwa, Commander, Botswana Defense Force, General Mpho Churchill Muputing, Deputy Commander, Botswana Defense Force, Lieutenant General Joseph Ino Sel, Director General Support Services, Major General Molifi Sikano, AM Commander, Major General Hendrik Tutu Rakantswana, Commander Ground Forces Command, Major General Simon Motswana Barabazile, Secretary of Defense, Brigadier Retired Mukweli Sianang, Commander Defense Logistics Command, Brigadier Thomas Masunga, BDF General Officers present, BDF Senior Officers present, First Sergeant Major Warrant Officer Saboloko Musimayana, Coordinator Civilian Personnel, Me Lelengwe Madisa Kwana, Officers, Major Command Sergeant Majors, Warrant Officers, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to the 21st Strategic Conference under the theme, Maintaining a Capable and Cost-Effective Defense Force Under Fiscal Constraints. I am Colonel Mwagezidizela, and I shall be co-directing these proceedings with Colonel Tsupamolome and Colonel Lusika Mogai. Sir, before we commence the program this morning, may I call upon Chaplain General Nigel Mukubung to give us the opening prayer. Brigadier Mukubung, sir.
Mr. President. Before I pray, I would like to share just a scripture, a little thought that can invigorate our spirits. I will be quoting from Ecclesiastes. In Setswana is called Moreri, chapter 7 and verse 1. It says, a good name is better than fine perfume. Ka Setswana ya re leina le le siameng kana le le molemo la ga isa setolo se se nkgang monate. Ba gaetsho ra itse gore setolo mo ga rona kana mo botshelong bo se mo budgeteng di a tura tse re di itshasang mme ra di tshasa ka lebaka la gore go a tshwanela gore ga o heta jana o nkge monate batho ba utlwa o nkga monate. Mme hela Bibele yone ya re setolo se le ga se nkga monate yana se gaisiwa ke leina le le siameng ka gore setolo ke sa nakwana leina lone le tsaya nako forever ka leina le bua ka wena leina le bua ka character ya gago a o thapile our perejang, Lina. Ke gakologela nkuku when e tere ga gongwe go tsere dikgang go buiwa ka motho o tla re a ba kgwemathe e le gore o kgwiswa ke mathe ko re ha gakologelwa motho o ha go bua leina la motho o gakologelwa mekgwa motho yo ke sone se a re a ba kgwemathe mme ba ga etso maloba ha re sana re addresswa ke commandera FSM Wheeler in his closing remarks a bua gore Botswana ke ba re duduetsa gompieno kana re kile ba tshogile e re ha go bua ka BDF e be ba suba di hatho tsa bone ba le ba go sele mme gompieno ba simolotse go re duduetsa mongwe le mongwe o simolotse go associate le BDF ha o bua ka BDF mongwe le mongwe a ruma FSM said I re Botswana ba santse ba re buletse page let us rally behind this. Let us stick ourselves to this page that has been opened for us. Because now, ke leina le ntsha le Botswana ba re bonang ka lone le leng gore re ntse re ba senyeditse re ntse re sentse ka boitshwaro bo bo sa amogelesegeng bo re ntseng re bodira mme anong gompieno anong Botswana ke ba re meletsa mathe ba re bua sente a re santse re bua sente a re dikgang tsa rona le bone di le monate re go re sianeng gone go re togeleng tsele tsa bogologolo tse ne re ntse re itsewi ka tsone re di togeleng ba ga etso le gakologelwang gore le leina la setšhaba go na le pina ya rona ya setšhaba go na le go gongwe ga e buang teng ya re leina le nte la tumo la tšhaba ya Botswana. This is a good name of fame. Mme kana ba opedi ba re ha mabitso a ba itshepi ya re ha magama a ba ngwele a bitswa ya re le nna la me le teng go gore le nna le wena we contribute to the fame of the name of Botswana because without me and you there is no Botswana. But if nna le wena we behave otherwise then we tarnish this good name, the name of Botswana. Ya re ke leina la a le tswelle ka tumo bebele a re tsogang banna emang basadi re kopaneleng go direla ya tshela rona re ka le direla not only by doing whatever that we can do but re le ka gore re maintain tumo re maintain se rodumo monko monate o re go bua ka Botswana mongwe le mongwe ba metsa mate and rona as we assemble re bana ba Botswana bone bao re Botswana bone bao amorena Jesu Christ a re se go this morning and let me call upon you that we must come and pray now. Let's pray. We thank you so much, Father, for giving us this opportunity to bow before you and to recognize you as our God. We are aware that we are the descendants of your people, Lord, our fathers that maintained a good name, the name of fame of this great country, Botswana. We thank you, Lord, for this opportunity just to face you this morning and to thank you for the gift of life. God, as we meet in this fashion for this conference, I ask that, God, you bless us, you protect us, and throughout all the proceedings, I ask all these things in the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Chaplain General, for inviting the Almighty to take charge of this conference. And may I, at this juncture, invite the Commander, Botswana Defense Force, General Mpho Churchill Muputin, to give welcome remarks. The Commander, sir.
The President of the Republic of Botswana and the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Advocate Duma Boko, Minister for State President, Defense and Security, Honorable Moeti Caesar Mohasa, Permanent Secretary to the President, Ms. Matsidiso Bokole, Attorney General, Mr. Dick Bakeford, Permanent Secretary to the President, Permanent Secretary to the Ministry of Finance, Dr. Sokoloho Alex Khanetsano, Acting Permanent Secretary to the Ministry for State President, Defense and Security, Mr. Jerry Makwa, Deputy Commander, Botswana Defense Force, Lieutenant General Joseph Selo, Director General, Support Services, Botswana Defense Force, Major General Mulifisi Kano, Air Arm Commander, Major General Hendrik Tutu Rakantswana, Commander Ground Forces Command, Major General Simon Motswana Barobatsile, Secretary of Defense, Brigadier Retired Mukwedi Sianang, Commander Defense Logistics Command, Brigadier Thomas Masunga, BDF General Officers here present, BDF Senior Officers, Force Sergeant Major, Warrant Officer 1, Seboloko Musimanyana, Coordinator Civilian Personnel, Ms. Lelengwe Madisa Kwana, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is with profound honor, humility, and immense pride that I welcome you all to the 21st Botswana Defense Force Strategic Conference, a forum that has evolved into the principal arena of strategic military thought within our republic. Over the years, this conference has transcended routine administrative deliberations and matured into a strategic institution through which the Botswana Defense Force reflects upon the changing character of warfare, interrogates matters of national security, examines institutional resilience, and charts the future trajectory of the Botswana Defense Force. Indeed, this conference remains the crucible through which strategic thought is refined into strategic direction. Mr. President, your continued decision to personally officiate this conference carries profound strategic significance. It reaffirms the enduring principle that defense and security are not peripheral functions of the state, but foundational pillars upon which sovereignty, stability, constitutional order, and national development firmly rests. In the classical tradition of statecraft, salus populis suprema lexisto, the safety of the people shall be the supreme law. This is the first strategic conference I attend in my capacity as commander of the Botswana Defense Force. I'm so acutely conscious of the solemn obligation entrusted to us as the custodian of the Republic, security, stability, and strategic interests. The profession of arms demands not only courage in battle, but also clarity of thought, discipline of purpose, and constancy of leadership. This year, I deliberately directed that the conference undergo a fundamental reorientation in both philosophy and execution. In previous years, implementation challenges occasionally emerged due to over-ambitious resolutions, inadequate accountability mechanisms, and insufficient alignment between strategic aspirations and fiscal realities. We therefore adopted a more deliberate and disciplined approach grounded in realism, accountability, innovation, and measurable implementation. Comprehensive institutional surveys were conducted across the force to identify recurring organizational challenges, while dedicated working groups were tasked to produce practical, implementable, and measurable solutions aligned with operational realities, budgetary limitations, and strategic priorities. Above all else, we demanded alignment. Alignment with your strategic vision of the Republic, alignment with the Commander's strategic guidance, alignment with prevailing fiscal realities, and alignment with the evolving demands of contemporary defense and security management. Mr. President, since your assumption of office, we within the Botswana Defense Force have listened attentively to every message, caution, observation, and aspiration you have expressed regarding the Defense Force and the nation at large. We have regarded those pronouncements not as ceremonial rhetoric, but as strategic guidance warranting deliberate implementation. During my assumption of command last year, I articulated 5 strategic priorities intended to define my tenure as commander of the Botswana Defense Force. I am pleased to report that implementation commenced without delay and has now been fully integrated into the 2026-2027 financial year planning framework. At the conclusion of this conference, we shall officially launch the Commander Strategic Guidance, popularly known as the Forward March, a strategic roadmap intended to propel the Botswana Defense Force towards higher standards of professionalism, modernization, discipline, accountability, innovation, justice, and institutional excellence. In essence, it is an institutional tabula rectoria, the guiding strategic framework intended to shape the future character of the force. Mr. President, despite prevailing fiscal constraints, meaningful progress has been registered across several strategic fronts. These achievements include the operationalization of the Judge Advocate General's Office and the continued implementation of the military justice system, a historic institutional milestone intended to strengthen discipline, fairness, accountability, and justice within the force. We have equally advanced institutional reforms aimed at modernizing governance systems, improving efficiency, and strengthening professionalism. Concurrently, we continue to foster a culture of cost consciousness, innovation, self-reliance, and indigenous technology capability. Of equal significance has been the reconfiguration of defense intelligence into a more integrated, agile, proactive, and strategically responsive architecture centered upon timely collection, professional analysis, and strategic dissemination in support of national decision-making. Sir, the leadership of the Botswana Defense Force today remains intentionally connected to the welfare, morale, and aspirations of our men and women in uniform. We recognize that no modern military institution can afford to isolate itself from the citizens it exists to serve and protect. Consequently, we continue to strengthen the enduring foundations of civil-military relations that have long distinguished the Botswana Defense Force as one of the nation's most respected and trusted institutions. We equally continue to strengthen collaboration with sister security and law enforcement agencies because contemporary security challenges increasingly demand integrated responses, unity of effort, and collective strategic thinking. Si suis pacem parabellum. If you desire peace, prepare for war, remains as strategically relevant today as it was centuries ago. Mr. President, we remain deeply seized with the troubling challenge of gender-based violence within our society and regrettably within sections of our institution. We fully appreciate that operational excellence devoid of moral excellence remains fundamentally incomplete. However, I wish to assure you that we are not passive in the face of this challenge. We continue to implement leadership-driven interventions, institutional reforms, and preventative mechanisms aimed at eradicating this scourge within our ranks. As we commence this conference today, we do so prepared to engage frankly, courageously, and strategically. We shall challenge assumptions, reject complacency, think beyond routine, and shape a Botswana Defence Force that future generations shall inherit with pride and admiration. The future will not reward hesitation. It will reward boldness, discipline, innovation, strategic foresight, and unity of purpose. As I conclude, allow me once more, on behalf of the Botswana Defence Force, to express our deepest appreciation to you, sir, for taking time from your demanding national responsibilities to officially open this strategic conference. Your presence remains a profound source of encouragement, inspiration, and institutional confidence to all members of the Botswana Defence Force. May Almighty God continue to bless and protect you, grant you wisdom, strength, and good health as you continue to lead our beloved Republic of Botswana. I thank you, sir. Pula.
Thank you, the Commander of Botswana Defence Force, General Mpho Churchill Muputing, for the welcome remarks and for adding our Latin vocabulary, solis populis suprema lex, which I guess it means the welfare and safety of the community are the ultimate priorities in governance. And may I, at this juncture, humbly request the President of the Republic of Botswana and Commander-in-Chief, Advocate Duma Boko, to officially open the 21st Strategic Conference and to remain standing to receive a memento as a token of appreciation from the Commander, Botswana Defence Force. Mr. President, sir.
Thank you very much, as you were. Only the disciplined and members of the disciplined forces would have understood. To the civilian members of the gathering, I was requesting that you take your seats. Let me start by recognizing the directors of these proceedings and thank them for the efficient manner in which they are conducting business. I recognize the Minister for State President, Defense and Security, Remweti Mohasa. I recognize the Permanent Secretary to the President, Me Matshidiso Bokole. Recognize a colorful, very eminent member of our society, the Attorney General, Mr. Dick Bayford. The Commander of the Botswana Defence Force, General Mpho Churchill Muputi, and his Deputy, Lieutenant General Joseph Eno Seel. The Acting Permanent Secretary, of the Ministry for State President, Defense and Security, Re Jerry Makwa, and all other permanent secretaries who are here with us, we recognize you and acknowledge your presence, as we also do acknowledge all senior government officials who are here. Let me gratefully acknowledge BDF commanders, and BDF general officers, members of the BDF, both uniformed and non-uniformed, men and women of honor, of integrity, courage, and discipline. We recognize you. We appreciate all of you. And I extend my warmest greetings to you, one and all. Members of the media, we appreciate you. And the BDF band, I don't see them here, but I acknowledge them. I always am inspired by their finesse, by their virtuosity. I will not tire of appreciating them humbly. Ladies and gentlemen, I must start today with a moment of piety. Piety. The philosopher Plato tells us that piety is a grateful acknowledgement of all the sources of good in one's life and a reverence of those who have given and give so much of themselves, give their all to make us who and what we are. And this is a moment of piety impelled by the extreme discipline, dedication, and clock-like execution that the Botswana Defense Force in particular displayed during the state funeral that we held a few days ago, where we were sending off an illustrious son of this country who led with grace, and the Botswana Defense Force worked diligently with such fortitude and discipline that you earned us the admiration not only of our own people, but of those who had come to attend the funeral, and indeed the admiration of the whole world. That is why I must take this moment to recognize the work that you put in and appreciate your dedication and your humility. Thank you. Thank you so very much. I am pleased to officially open this strategic conference, the 21st Botswana Defence Force Strategic Conference. And as I do so, I'd like to commend the BDF leadership for convening this conference and convening it under the theme that it bears: maintaining a capable and cost-effective defense force under fiscal constraints. Your theme captures and addresses the realities of the here and now. It acknowledges the challenges that we face, the demands in an age or a time of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, and accelerated technological transformation. These circumstances have changed from what they were in the past. They are fluid. Nothing is static. Everything is in constant motion, in constant flux. And we are called upon to keep pace with these changes. We must adapt. We must engage with the circumstances that we find ourselves in, understand what limitations they impose on us, and at the same time, identify the unique opportunities that these circumstances present to us to change, to adapt. And so, you know, because you are students and practitioners of strategy, tactics, execution with precision, you know that in any given situation, you must identify the barriers to progress, to forward movement, to advancement. And the job of a leader, therefore, is to find ways in which you can concentrate action and ideas to achieve outcomes that you have set and you envision. You know these things. You are trained in them. You are practitioners thereof. Your theme, therefore, impels all of us to engage in a conjunctural analysis, assess the circumstances, a confluence of challenges, but at the same time, to identify how we can unlock progress under any circumstances, including the ones that we face now. And I'm happy to engage with you to open this strategic conference. I spoke at your conference last year, and at that gathering I dealt with national renewal, I urged institutional discipline, ethical leadership, and I suggested that it was imperative for public institutions to adapt to the present realities and the unfolding situation. That while we do all these things, we must remain anchored in the constitutional values that underpin our polity, our country. And I heard the commander and the director of these proceedings throw some forceful Latin maxims to describe the situation. And the director says, "Salus populi est suprema lex," summarizes very crisply what we are all about. The welfare of the people is the supreme law. You can read the Constitution. You can read all the law books. It is ultimately about this profound principle that all these must converge on one thing and one thing only: the welfare of the people. And so whatever we do, however we do it, it must be for the advancement of the welfare of our people. Any interpretation of the law that is inimical, that threatens the welfare of the people, is an erroneous interpretation. It doesn't matter how smart you are, doesn't matter who you are. When you construe the law, you must construe it in favor of the people, their welfare, their well-being. And so when you read whatever judgment, you check just one thing at the end of it all. They will write in all sorts of ways, speak in very lofty terms. But shorn of all the frills, you must identify one thing: the welfare of the people. And you serve that welfare. We all must serve that welfare. And we are inspired, we draw from the tap roots, the well springs of our culture and our Constitution. But the Constitution itself must submit to the welfare. It must serve the welfare. It must conduce to the welfare of the people. And so the Constitution itself can actually be wrong if it does not serve this supreme purpose. And you know that there was a constitutional order in South Africa some time back where racial discrimination was constitutional, it was normalized. It was the Constitution. But it was wrong. It was immoral. So the legal is not always correct. It may be legal, but morally reprehensible, as apartheid was. And so, we must, within all these circumstances, advance the welfare of our people. And the Botswana Defence Force has done an admirable job so far of serving, of advancing the welfare of the people. And for that, you deserve our commendation and our appreciation. Because the truth is that the defense of a nation is not only achieved through military hardware, but also through moral strength, through professionalism, and through the discipline of the men and women entrusted with the sacred responsibility of safeguarding the Republic. It is a sacred responsibility. You serve a sacred purpose to safeguard this Republic. And you've continued to distinguish yourselves with your discipline, with your professionalism, as a respected institution in our Republic, in our region, and beyond. The Botswana Defence Force has served with such aplomb, and it did not start recently. I remember first I had some close encounter with anything to do with the BDF. Our forces had been deployed, was it in Somalia, a place called Baidoha, where there was some warlord called Mohammed Farah Aidid terrorizing people. And contingents of peacekeeping missions had been deployed there without much success. And in came a detachment of the Botswana Defence Force. And legend has it that the moment they arrived, the forces of Mohammed Farah Aidid tested them, checked whether they could do what they had done theretofore. And the response from the Botswana Defence Force was coordinated and formidable. And it subdued the onslaught of Mohammed Farah Aidid's forces, and it earned the Botswana Defence Force the respect of the local population in Baidoha. And the story goes on to say that the people of the area took an attitude in terms of which they would not deal with anybody else but members of the Botswana Defence Force. And you've kept this shape, you've kept this discipline, you've maintained your dedication, and you've brought great credit to this Republic. You've remained loyal to not just the Constitution as such, but the supreme value being the welfare, the integrity of this Republic. We must adapt, as I say. We must innovate. Our success as a country, as the Botswana Defence Force, is dependent on the pace, the nature, and the scope of our innovation. Innovation means reflecting on the practices that may have served us well up to now, reviewing them constantly, and checking whether they remain eminently suited to the challenges of the now and the unfolding future. We must anticipate. Small nations are now powerful because they have learned how to deploy technology to augment their limited resources and capabilities. We've seen this. And these adaptations and innovations have redefined the art of warfare completely. Tilted the balances of forces in the world order. And we must draw lessons from all these and appreciate that it is not just us who will learn, but the terrorists will also learn. They also are innovating. Cyber threats are becoming the order of the day. Non-state actors are becoming more sophisticated. Organized criminal networks are mushrooming. The Commissioner of Police was informing me we've begun to experience an influx of armed individuals bringing weapons into the country to come and commit crimes. And we need to respond to these. What all these indicate is that we are facing increasingly complex security challenges. And this nation looks to you. Despite the challenges and the constraints, to find solutions, to deploy in an efficient and appropriate manner to deal with these challenges. We cannot afford to be complacent. The situation demands of us anticipation rather than reaction. It demands of us foresight rather than comfort. And it is for this reason that the government has prioritized the development of a comprehensive national security strategy, a coherent framework intended to ensure a whole of government coordination, strategic foresight, and national resilience to anticipate and to deal with these increasing security challenges. And you are here as leaders of the Defense Force because the true strength of a defense force is measured by the quality of its leadership, the discipline of its troops, the integrity of its command structures, the professionalism of its operations, and the efficiency with which it utilizes national resources. So a disciplined and innovative force remains formidable even under circumstances of fiscal constraint. And so leadership matters. That's why you are here as leaders. Your leadership has been, it must continue to be exemplary. Command must never become an instrument of fear, of intimidation, or personal privilege. Leadership is a sacred trust. Those entrusted with command must lead by example in conduct, in integrity, professionalism, and moral courage. The standard expected of every commander is therefore unequivocal: discipline without abuse, authority without arrogance, accountability without compromise, professionalism without exception. And we must also anticipate, deal with, not reduce, but completely eliminate corruption. Because corruption will weaken our operational readiness. Corruption will destroy our morale. It will undermine public confidence in all of us. And ultimately, corruption is a real and present danger to national security. And so every ULA allocated to defense must serve the interests of the Republic and the welfare of those who safeguard it. And on this note of discipline, I know fully well. Uniformed, armed, trained, disciplined, as you all are, you are human beings, creatures of flesh and blood. You enter into relationships. You live in families. You get married. You bear children. You face the same challenges every human being faces. You face betrayal. You are not immune from it because you are soldiers, trained. It affects everybody, all of us. It affects the best amongst us. We must also anticipate this and prepare ourselves, fortify ourselves, not so that these things don't happen to us. They will happen. They have to happen. We cannot control whether they happen or they don't happen to us, each and every one of us. What we can control, though, is how we react to all these things. You have full control over how you react. And sometimes we theorize, We speak in terms of serene detachment from the problems. We think the problems affect others and not us. They affect all of us. Infidelity in marriages, in love affairs, will strike at any point. We must understand this. And some will say, go for counseling. Well and good. Do counseling if it works for you. I'm told it works. I've never tried it. at least not in the manner that it is done, in the institutionalized manner. The type of counseling I have experienced and I have found useful. And I always want to humanize these things, make them as human and relatable as possible. I once had a friend who went through some harrowing experience in his relationship. He was devastated, miserable. And I did not know how to deal with this. He was older than me, so I couldn't purport to have any experience that I could share. But then I remembered there was another friend who had gone through even worse and survived with such courage and fortitude. And so I decided to bring these two folks together. So I got them into the car and I drove. And I said to the one, "Hey, our brother here has a problem. But before we deal with this problem, please relate to him what you have experienced." And he told the story. And when he finished, a miserable friend was smiling and laughing and asking questions and engaging. He was no longer miserable. You know why? He had weighed on the balance his problem against what this guy was relating. And he realized what he thought was the biggest problem paled into insignificance when put next to what this friend had experienced. And by the time we returned, he was no longer miserable. First, because he saw that things happen and people survive and they become happy. And he realized that he was wasting his time wallowing in misery and self-pity. And for some, actually, who don't get some intervention or the kind that I engineered for this friend, some end up brutalizing, inflicting grave injuries, and even taking lives. It happens. It has happened in relation to some of us, not all. On a tiny, minuscule scale, it is still important. It still taints the disciplined Botswana Defence Force. And we need to deal with it. We need to anticipate these challenges and remain in full control of how we react. How we react. And sometimes you must react by not reacting at all. And it is very important, in fact, all the more important for you, because you, women and men of discipline, are trained to protect lives. You are trained in the use of lethal force. You are experts. You can put together some contraption and kill someone. You know how to do it. You are trained. That's all the more reason why you must never use these skills to take the life of a civilian or take any life in any non-combat situation. Even in war, you know, when you've subdued the enemy, humanitarian laws, the conventions impose an obligation on you to be humane. You know, even in a war situation, you are not there to gratuitously and egregiously apply force and take life. No. You are there to defend, and you will take life in the course of defending because it is absolutely necessary in the circumstances. Even our Constitution allows it. Section 4 of our Constitution says, as it recognizes the importance of life, you can take another human's life where you are defending your own life or the lives of your family members. In fact, the Constitution is so generous as to say under Section 4 that you can take life in the defense of your property. We know. But you are trained. That is why you have a red book, I think it is red, regulating the use of lethal force. You account for every bullet. It is strictly regulated because you are women and men of discipline. How then can we deploy these special skills? Not to defend, not to protect, but to maim and kill. It soils the good name of the defense force. It tarnishes the disciplinary record of the Botswana Defense Force. But these things are real. And so we need to find ways of engaging with our troops, sensitize them to the fact that these things will happen. We are not angels, and we are not in heaven here. I'm sure the chaplain might share with us some experiences of how heaven sounds or how it feels. But we are here. And in this world, which is not heaven, things will happen to all of us. Doesn't matter who you are. But what is critical, what is dispositive in any situation is how you yourself conduct yourself, how you react. And I don't know, I've shared this story with you, and I want to share it again. Because it not only helps, but it also casts in a particular light the Botswana Defense Force. I must have told you that when I was out in private practice as a young attorney, a senior officer of the Botswana Defense Force came to my chambers and he consulted with me. And he told me why he had come to see me. He wanted a divorce. And he related to me his experiences with his wife. And he showed me bruises on his body. He was carrying a stick. I think you call it a stick of honor. I don't know. It doesn't look like you still carry those now. I think you carry more lethal devices than just a stick of honor. But he was carrying this staff. And I listened to him. I was young and he was telling me how his wife had always assaulted him. regularly. And I'm looking at this guy and thinking to myself, and I'm getting angry as he's speaking. Very angry, actually. Angry at him. Because I'm looking at this guy. This guy is a soldier. He's telling me he was being beaten by his wife. This is a man who's supposed to protect me. I'm totally unprotected here. So I'm looking at him and waiting for him to finish. Because I was saying to myself, when he finishes, I'm going to tell him, brother, you don't need a lawyer. You need a bouncer. Somebody who can go and beat the daylights out of your wife and teach her some discipline. That's what I thought then. I'm telling you, I was younger then. Not as wise as I may be now. And so when he finished, well, he was about to finish, he said to me, I'm sure you're wondering why these experiences happen and I've done nothing about them. And he says, 2 reasons. The first is that I grew up in an abusive family situation. And I vowed to myself as I was growing up that I would never, ever lay a hand on a woman. He says that's the first reason. And he says the second reason is this, that on account of what this woman has done to me over the years, if I flipped and laid a hand on her, I would not stop. I would kill her. The pain and the anguish of what I've gone through would make it difficult, in fact, impossible for me to stop. So I'm not, as he was saying this, my whole attitude towards him changed completely. I developed immense respect for him. I saw in him a man who was so disciplined that in the face of physical abuse, emotional brutality on himself, he still could maintain the fortitude to remember what he had vowed to himself and act with such restraint in those difficult circumstances. A senior, high-ranking member of the Botswana Defense Force. And it cemented my respect for the Botswana Defense Force. Because I thought to myself, no, he must be trained. He's disciplined. He's not like me. That's why I harbored the thoughts that I did. So I learned. So some of the learnings are from the experiences of other people who've gone through trauma. They must teach us so that when these circumstances strike, we are able to detach ourselves and not react. And this is the advice I want to share with you. As members of the disciplined forces, that when these circumstances strike, remember your training. Remember the discipline. Keep the discipline. When your partner steps out on you, it is not an indictment of you. It is not saying you're a failure. No, not at all. It's not about you. It's about them. Don't make it about you. Don't appropriate somebody else's faults, foibles, and shortcomings and make them part of your identity. Don't do it. look at it and say, oh, I'm bigger than this. I'm better than this. And at any rate, it could actually be a blessing. Sever ties with this one. You might stumble upon somebody who's better. It's not guaranteed, but it doesn't matter. That's life. It's trial and error like that. There's no formula. There's no template. I cannot give you a template. Even the most successful relationships, the most successful, are not a blueprint. You can do what the other guy is doing and still experience this. And the last example, in this effort to humanize the discourse, a partner, former partner of mine at the law firm, who actually is now a judge, called me. He was consulting with a young lady. Says to me, come and help me here. I said, what? He calls me. I said, what kind of case? I thought it was a very complicated case. He says, no, it's a divorce matter. I said, you're calling me to come and help you consult over a divorce? He says, yes. So I walk into his office and I sit there with him and the client. And the lady says, I want a divorce. I've told this man. I said, oh, okay. What is the problem? She says, there's no problem. I sit up and look at her. I said, no, but you are here. She says, yes, I'm here. I said, so there must be a problem. She says, well, maybe there is a problem, but the problem is that there is no problem. I said, what do you mean? She says, no, this husband of mine is a good guy. If I could write a reference, he is the ideal man. I know what time he knocks off, and I know how long it takes him to get home, and he gets home, and he's always home. He's a gentleman, par excellence. He's a decent guy. I'm listening, and I say, so what is the problem? He says, exactly this that I'm describing to you is the problem. You realize how life can be. The average, not even the average, in fact, the majority of women, when asked to describe the ideal husband, would describe exactly the guy that this lady had. And she understood this, but she said, life is so boring. What? It's boring. Then I realized. So I say, maybe I'm trying to look for a fault. Maybe there's something that he used to do while you were, before you got married, that he's no longer doing now. She says, no. He's doing everything and more. But I want out. So I said to my partner in the firm, you know what we have to do? Let's call the guy. Sit him down and tell him this truth. We called him. We sat down with him. And we told him, your wife has spoken in glowing terms about you. She is full of praise and admiration, but she wants a divorce from you. So, please, accept it. Let's find a way of making it happen. He was broken, he was devastated, but he accepted. He was a decent human being. It looks like even being a decent human being is not the solution. So, when things happen, it is not because you have failed or you've fallen short. No. You may actually be the very best that there is, but these things will happen because somebody feels bored, whatever that means. And so let us anticipate these, because these are the things that when they strike, they cause us to lose our bearings, lose our humanity. And people say, he was justified. There's no justification under any circumstance. It doesn't matter what your spouse may have done to you. There's no justification to inflict violence or even death. None. And I think we need to take this message to our charges, the privates, all these folks. Some of them are young. They have not experienced the world. Some of them think they are the be-all and end-all. You meet a woman, you think you are the best thing that ever happened to her. No, you are not. You are not. Doesn't matter who you are. You are just a human being relating with this person. As long as they still want to relate with you. If they reach a point where they don't, accept. Thank them for the time that they gave and walk away. That's just the way it should happen. And then I hear, and the Chief Justice mentioned, that there are many divorces that are coming up or have been filed, and people are alarmed. Why are you alarmed? You should celebrate that people who have been together have reached a point, and now have reached a point where they don't want to be together, have taken the route that we've laid down to go and break this union. That's what has to happen. Because if it doesn't happen this way, it may happen in other ways that we don't want. And the problem again with the law itself, is that, and that is the challenge that I faced with that couple. It says it's a no-fault. We are a no-fault divorce country. In other words, you don't need to establish fault. In other jurisdictions, they just say, we have irreconcilable differences. And it's enough. In our jurisdiction, you have to say, I caught this person with so and so, and then I chased them, and then this, and then you have to, you actually have to embarrass yourself in order to get out. Yet when you walked in, we didn't interview you, we didn't ask you questions, we didn't even check whether you and this person should even get together. Because maybe if we had at that point, we would have told you, this is not the right thing for you to do at all, or at any rate, not now. But we didn't do that. So to get married, you have to get a witness. The spouse gets a witness. You go to the marriage officer's office, and you are married. But when you want out, now you have to go to court. Now you have to allege all sorts of things. Why can't you just say, well, I think I made a mistake here. I shouldn't have gone into this thing. But so in a way, the way society itself looks at these relationships imposes expectations that are unreasonable, puts pressure on people, some of them very young, inexperienced, terribly immature at times. And when they run into problems, we act shocked. And when they go to court now to get out, we frown upon it. I'm not encouraging divorce. Let me be clearly understood. I'm not. I'm encouraging harmony. And where there's disharmony, I'm encouraging people to step back, step away even from each other, and maintain that cosmic harmony that must always prevail. And so gender-based violence arises from, it seems to me, an attitude of non-acceptance of certain realities that will from time to time strike. They may not visit you once or twice. You may think you are cursed. Each time happens. Next, keep going. Keep going. As long as you're alive, close the chapter and open a different one without violence, without any recriminations. Because when we sit here and we theorize about these things, they become so detached, so distant. It looks like there are others in society who are immune. No, pastors, professors of whatever subject, everybody, we are all human. And let us accept and understand, so that if the person looks like they want to get out, help them get out. Check with them. Are you still in or out? Nicely. No fights. This is maturity, emotional, psychological maturity. But for you, it is beyond just maturity. It is part of your training, part of your psyche, the discipline that you've been trained in, and the danger that you pose because you know how to take a life. So don't take it. The reason they trained you this way is so that you appreciate. And ultimately, you respect the sanctity of human life. And gender-based violence is a gross violation of the sanctity of human life. It is a violation of the bodily integrity of a fellow human being, regardless of what this fellow human being may have done or not done. And I must raise the issue that I've raised, because not only has it been misconstrued and distorted, it has, there's an informal gathering, we call it Stingy Men's Association. There's another one called Men's Conference. After I made these remarks, I received threats from them. At the next meeting, we're going to expel you. And I wrote and said, no, you can't expel me without a hearing. You must summon me to a trial and I'll come and defend myself. But here's what I had said. And I had put it in very simple terms. I said, I'm now trying to badge. In fact, Limosadi. I'm trying to badge. I said this. And I believe this. I believe it. But what does it mean to give in this manner? It is not transactional. Don't give because you expect something in return. Don't give because you are buying a favor or you impose a set of expectations about your gift or your giving. No. Give because it's a good thing. Makes you feel good. Doesn't matter what this person does. it's a good thing to help, to give to a fellow human being. And I say to people, you know, if I had a lot of money, if I was a wealthy man, I would become almost immediately poor because I would give to people. I don't care, oh, you have a problem here because I have it. You also have, and I do that in my own small way. See a person ask me for little trinkets, I give. I didn't give this person because I expect them to give me anything back. No. And I had an interesting experience because we need to use some of these live examples. There was a young woman called Sarah. I don't know where she is now. I haven't seen her in a long time. She used to accost everybody and me as well and ask for money. And everybody gives. She was a very nice person. So one day I decided I'm going to test this lady. And she's carrying a whole wad of collections for the day. So before she asked me, I said to her, Sarah, please give me money. And she looked at me and thrust her day's collection. She says, take. It humbled me. Said to myself, this person is a beggar. She can see that I clearly don't need, but she just gives. And then I said to her, you know, Sarah, let's agree, you and I, starting today, when you see me, don't ask me for money. Look for me around the end of the month. I will give you X amount. Always. And we agreed. And I would meet Sarah at Riverwalk, and she would just greet me and commend me. She always had good things to say. She was a sweet lady, but she would never ask. And then, towards the end of the month, she would meet me and say, Big Eta. And I would say, yes. And she knew where to find me. Mag and Bean, Riverwalk. She always knew I would be there. And she would come. And each time she came, I gave her what I had agreed. It was now almost like a salary. Because I had been humbled by her generosity in circumstances of penury, where she had nothing but she could give. That's the type of giving I'm talking about. And so when I say Robecha, I'm not talking about the kind of thing that people do, where they give because they expect. No. When I give, I don't expect anything. And in my life, I've given not just trinkets, I've given my service to people. I've represented litigants in court for no fee because I felt so strongly that there's injustice here. Where I had to pay to file the papers in court and to travel, the person could not afford, but I felt I gave without expecting anything in return. So when you have somebody in your life, whether it be a lover or whatever it is, and you give, please give from the bottom of your heart without expecting anything in return. And so when the person does something you don't like, don't then reference the fact that you've given and say, Ujilwe. No, no, no. If you look at it that way, then your giving was conditional. It wasn't just giving. So that is the context in which I discussed the concept of Robecha. And if you understand it the way I understand it, we must all do it. Without fear and without favor. And this is not me being a lawyer. No, this is me just being a human being, ordinary. That's what we all must be. And so, women and men of discipline and integrity, when we approach these matters in our private spaces, let us carry into those private estuaries the discipline that we've been trained in, that has been inculcated in us. That must now be our second nature, and which must moderate our behavior so that in these most difficult, personal, intimate circumstances of what you may call betrayal, you still remain grounded. And you can look at this person with pity and even protect them, even when they have wronged you. That is the highest. I think God wants us to behave like this. If you do this, I think you have almost written your name indelibly in the book that will take you to heaven in the afterlife. And this is not theoretical. And it has to be as practical, as human as possible, because it happens. Even as we are here, it probably is happening to someone or some other people. We need to be able to offer support, understanding, empathy, so that we don't condemn, we don't pass judgment, we don't know these personal circumstances. Let's help bring peace, restore harmony, rebuild communities, have healthy, happy families in the true sense. And let all these be exemplified more luridly in your lives, in all our lives. And this is how we will be able to defeat gender-based violence. But we must also appreciate, we need to address your welfare issues, and we will. We will build houses. There are a few housing units that have been completed, told it's about 408. It's woefully inadequate. We now need to find ways of speeding up the provision of decent accommodation for the men and women in uniform. We must do this, and we are focused on doing this. And we will use any means, any program, including the Bonuno National Housing Program, to make sure we provide housing. And also, not just provide housing for you while you work, but also enable you to have a house of your own. So we need to target the force in a deliberate and intentional way. Because I have seen, I know, many retire and become instant paupers. I know. Even where there's some pension scheme, it drops so drastically that you cannot reasonably survive on whatever it is, that annuity that you get. And it happens at a time when, because you are now advanced in age, you need more help, you need medical attention. And yet your means are not commensurate with the demands. We need to find ways of solving this. You retire, in your case, you folks retire very early because of the nature of your job. And you retire immediately into poverty. We need to deliberately engage on these things. Because when you get out, you are still a citizen. You are still the burden of this republic which you have served. And so we must find ways of cushioning, ensuring that you continue to lead decent lives. And one of the ways I had thought, and we need to speed this up, is the development of a military-industrial complex where we now manufacture weapons and can sell. And who are naturally skilled in that field? Yourselves. So that when you retire from here, the next day you are in this establishment doing what you know and continuing to earn a decent living. So we need to find all the creative and innovative ways of addressing the welfare issues during and after service. And so it is important for us to do all these. So we must modernize, we must adapt, we must be innovative. And so this, your conference, must produce practical, implementable, and measurable outcomes. It must give us actionable strategies that are capable of sustaining your operational readiness, your institutional excellence, and your long-term strategic resilience while safeguarding your welfare. And on that note, it is now my honor, pleasure, and privilege to declare the 21st Botswana Defence Force Strategic Conference officially opened. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. We humbly request that you remain standing to receive a token of appreciation from the Commander, Botswana Defence Force. Mike? Mike?
What la go bula present ya ga Tautona Isikibu. Tautona tota ra leboga gore bo tsere sebaka gore bo na le rona ha. Ke a itse gore minister a tla go leboga. Me bile ne ke kope mo go Senior Private Secretary to the President gore next time a re la letsa Tautona re kopa go nna a bit jealous re mo kopa the whole day. So o cancel sengwe le sengwe se se tang after itse gore wisdom e ntseng re yanya tota re batla go extend to even others gore be ba le teng. Ha gongwe it's important ba utwa ba sanne ba utwa ba bona commander every time a bua le bona. The second thing Tautona go leboga gape kana every time ha go tluwa go conferencing re ntse re ha dimpho to be able to say thank you as a go tla kwano gore bulela conference go na le sebaka gore nne le rona. But this time ke tsela gore Dr. Khanetsana o tla rata thata ile ba tla go nna ba ntha ba re tota what present should we do ka be ke ba libisa go project a go mo loka o timelang conference se Kana ema pele. Motho wa ntshenyetsa mo go mas. Anyway, the theme of conference in the project one of the things in PS wa finance le minister ba bua ka ga re sena madikate all the time. Secondly, re tshwantse rona le mo BDF one of the things tse re dulang mo go tsone as part of the strategic priorities tsa commander ko re nne very innovative be ke ba ra ke bata anything that we are going to give to Tautona and anybody e be le made in BDF re akanye in so se long re se ka it's very special esen ra go batla beke kana re batla sengwe se long gore ka mo sota utana ha le ko Ministry of Agriculture ya gona the same thing wa go harologana hela re go printilwe ya rona we want something which is very unique so rabere ba designer ba go bata shele ba dira everything is made in BDF. The second thing se ne ke batla go pressurize senior private secretary to the president be ke make sure kana Tautona o receive dimpho tse dintsintsi ya no re ka dira jang gore re force gore go nne le space mo officing ya ga a re batleng sengwe se ileng gore wa go force ga gore ha bala o tshwantse ra ntse di gala semote ibile re batle sengwe se ileng gore every time wa sign a ba ntsha pen mo teng a sign so that way ha go le khakala ga ke a go e batla pen a sign ka no mo di boxing kana ke a go batla di gala se somewhere o di tsa go gongwe mo ha tafoleng within reach feast interval. Thank you. Janon Tautona mpha ga on behalf of masole wotlhe mo BDF ba ne ba dira le sengwe re go diretse something here re a se bone space mo go yena re leboga sengwe le sengwe so se dirileng le se o tla nna ngontse o re se direla se ya nketsa gore ta bona space go leba yana mo tafoleng ba ne ba designer ke ma BDF go kwala go dira sengwe le sengwe ka hana se ke yone ba re ha o riana gore pene ke o ditse hana go kwala di digala sa go tse hana so it's dina le space le lone le rumo ke le rumo la nnete ka nna le utlwa gore le bokete se le me re lintshitse mateng a teng a le ke la thunya se thank you sir. Ke sone se ke reng Dr. Kganetsano o tla rata seo sena go na le envelope o tla rata seo sena ka gore ga ra spenda sepe jaanong ke na le spreadsheet se se kana ke promised Tautona gore at the end of the financial year ra go save 100 million in terms of how we do things mo BDF so re ntse ra calculate gore hanga be rekile di present le eng sengwe le sengwe ne ra go spenda bokae. The second thing se a komphe e ka envelope le the other promise Tautona ke dirileng ga se check ke gore ile re le BDF for a very long time ne re leader mo di sports ha go te karate ha go te boxing ha go te mabelo ha go te everything le BDF and suddenly hela re bone hela re setse yanong bo litsile tebo go batla ba tsa spashi mo go rona so we have decided gape maloba ke bitse le ba athletics re ya no re batla the next Olympics le rona re batla litsile tebo go rona wa BDF a ba le mo team ya no nkare re inspireilwe ke litsile tebo le rona re inspireile batho go simolla hela jalo even research and development a lot of things started mo military e be dia go civilian e be dia go banka go be di boela mo military so it's the same thing re simolotse litsile tebo go ba nna litsile tebo go ya no re inspiring ya no ne kere this Tautona ke ntse ke ma BDF gape Dr. Kganetsano or this is an inspiration here bareng it's a special karata from commander and the rest of BDF mo teng ke litsile tebo ya no Never gonna 50 pilo. After 2 years, what about say was more circulation? Yan about our one alene, while wheeling, Lena go retiring say, if we want to inspire our Hokilana little table, Ikila Awana Ruaja. Thank you, sir. The last thing, Renzeretamaga Timi, Dr. Kanazano, I'm beginning to become an economist. When I lay sing wake set up, I get what I keep like and to sell like how Zena has a jack and hundreds and more entrancing. Kaha left in Kahana, who know when I table. One of the things I get in my BDF and senior officers or more conference in Lokonga, Asa Telegata Wana Pampir. Everything has to be IT based. How it's a Nahana, when I QR code, you more when a hand. You would send in Wanahali when I register online. Simulation online, Ridirala or Loana Haleka line, Chibirit or Reserva to Balekane. Everything's represent how to Hana QR coding. And you have all the information somewhere more on HANA. This is what we are actually doing. Very soon, very soon, like SSKB. We have developed an app how more campaign, BDF. You have to apply online and get the information now. So next time, how apply online on a QR code. How it's an it'll be super approved. Retire categorize our good officing. Harabator Canela, the girlfriends, Elison, one albaris on the regular visitors, Babata. They were need to pass up on it, this special or this guy about Diawana. But the most important thing, Rabatar Hamota Takwan, if it is a Kimanyo mo camping, lower our safe mo camping, lower sets and mo camping key. So everything. It's a homegrown, and that is how we intend to do going forward. Ba go diretse thobane gape ke eta utone. Ha ga re hana gona le neta na BDF go mo le gone ke le rumo le khathilwe be le tsengwa ha gare hana se. It's still made in BDF. So ba batla sengwe le sengwe se nna BDF se. Thank you, sir. And the very last thing, credit to inspiration, Dr. Kanezano, we need to look for ways. Hansi Harehetsamo Friday, Renale mess night. Neretueto Renale mess night, there are set at the table, Lokojuaka, Tipale for a cosimo, calculate and spend a little bit of money. But your officers said they have decided already. They want to live on to have a contribution. They are mess not to people say. Rabata rents a mocketting, really, my BDF for another senior officer. Ratlawi Tirela, Rogment, the Rogots a billion government. I said Nakiri and Badrial, they made that decision. The second thing, Bare, Rebata or mess night to Aron. Uskawana. Table in Kora Hell and Spindling with 200,000-300,000. Rebata or in Thimia Swan. So, but the Lekota Kunte Kakwana, by the side lower Bawapa Mokoto, listening about Tisabuja Swana, but about Perjaga Hotim, Basura Tawane, Varili di Husi, but about Perdijas, but I would discuss agenda based violence. Come messing when I leave Thimia Swan. And that way, we have cut the cost of relaying. Every little thing is on a silver rasi, the ramere. Rale Bokahela Tata Horobone, Sevakase, Savata. Thank you, sir. Yano Harna, we invite a moment night to Mahumpi, Gravata, let's appeal like a minister. Le PS or Bansa critique next year, go on Hebrew and our Fito, I invite Dr. Nara to do the trial. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, the commander. The commander, sir, we request you to remain standing to also present a moment as a token of appreciation to the ministers.
It's the same thing, but smaller. And Leha is the same thing to inspire sir. As a check, sir. Thank you so much.
May I humbly request the Minister for State, President, Defense and Security, Honorable Moeti Caesar Muhaza, to deliver the vote of thanks. Honorable Minister, sir.
Let me start off by acknowledging the presence of the President of the Republic of Botswana and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Advocate Duma Boko. Kere taipela ha ke ya go pele ke pheta ka khatse pedi santha ke ne kere ke tsa gore tauto na re ta dumelana gore e tare ha sna go hetsa thuma ha go mo setšhabeng ke tsa gore e ka nna councilor e thwahetseng ha kere ka gore gompieno ha mathata a setšhaba a leng mantsi ka tele a re no mo lapeng ha re ka re a simolole go councilor nya yaanong tiro ya setšhaba ya e romile e ka ema ko thoko mme ha tsenaga ka tele tsamaiso tauto na gore ga gore re tereme yaanong nna ke lebeletse go bona tauto ke lebetse gore ngwagola ka re nata apere camouflage yaanong ga ke mmone ke bona gote tauto na wa tsena yaanong ha re tsena gompieno ke mora kere Mr. Press ke bona a bile serope sa koko ka ga ka ke mora kere Mr. Press a thobole ke a boammaaruri a re wa tshameka ka taula ke re ra leboga tautona mme hela ke ne ke re ke le gakola ke le bone gore molatsa ga tautona ne o thamaletse but we have a challenge ya gore batho gantsi ha molaetsa o thamaletse bile re utusa o ntse yana ka moso wa botswa ga o change-ile o beile ka tsela e sele mme ke tsa gore o thamaletse ke molaetsa o nongwaga let me acknowledge the presence ya the acting PSP member Bokole, members of Defense Council here present. I can see the Attorney General Reddick Bayford, ke bona PS Finance re khaletsano ya no go lebega ga ile gore ha go bua ka go save madi lena la go la khabola raiso to ga ka moswana tha go bona ba re bona monna yo gate ke eno a ngame the acting PS co-state president re Bakwa ke bonele re Sianang secretary wa defense Commander Botswana Defense Force re Muputing Deputy Commander re Selo leadership and members of the Botswana Defense Force, distinguished guests, the media, ladies and gentlemen, Dumelang. It is both an honor and a deeply humbling privilege to rise this morning to deliver this vote of thanks following a powerful and timely address by the President of this Republic and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. Allow me at the outset to extend sincere appreciation to all distinguished guests, delegates, and participants for taking the time to be part of this important national engagement. Your presence here reflects a shared commitment to strengthening Botswana's security architecture and safeguarding the future of our Republic. This strategic conference comes at a critical moment in our national journey. The global environment continues to evolve rapidly, shaped by economic uncertainty, geopolitical tensions, technological disruption, organized crime, cyber insecurity, and increasing pressure on national resources. These realities demand institutions that are disciplined, adaptive, forward-looking, and prepared to respond decisively. The theme of this conference, maintaining a capable and cost-effective defense force under fiscal constraints, could not be more relevant. It challenges all of us to think deeply about the future of defense and security in a changing world and within a demanding fiscal environment. In this regard, we commend the Botswana Defence Force leadership for convening this important platform for reflection, strategic engagement, and institutional renewal. Organizations that continuously assess themselves, interrogate emerging threats, and embrace innovation are the ones that remain resilient and effective. To the Commander of Botswana Defence Force, General Churchill Mphomo Puting, and your entire leadership team, we express our deepest appreciation for your professionalism, discipline, and steadfast commitment to national service. The Botswana Defence Force remains one of the most respected institutions in our country because of its unwavering dedication to duty, operational excellence, and patriotism. Beyond protecting our territorial integrity, BDF continues to play an essential role in disaster response, anti-stock theft operations, border protection, and support to civil authority. Big time, Mr. President, re tshwanetse gore be re tsamaya re ya ko kgaolong tsa okavango ko go ntseng go na le bogodi jo bontsi ja leruo go e leng gore BDF it's playing an active role go leka go sireletsa dithoto tsa Batswana gone koo. Tse le tse dingwe ke tse e leng gore BDF ya thusa mo lehatsheng la Botswana. Ladies and gentlemen, as Botswana advances the implementation of the Economic Transformation Program and NDP 12, our security institutions must evolve alongside the broader national transformation agenda. A secure nation creates the conditions necessary for investment, productivity, social stability, and inclusive development. NDP 12 correctly recognizes governance, peace, and security as critical enablers in building a diversified, export-driven, and economically resilient Botswana. The defense and security sector, therefore, carries a historic responsibility not only to defend borders, but also to protect the stability upon which national development depends. In difficult economic periods, discipline becomes even more important. The efficient use of public resources, strategic planning, technological adaptation, and institutional accountability are no longer optional. They are necessities. It is therefore encouraging that this conference will deliberate on matters of operational readiness, modernization, cost-effectiveness, and institutional efficiency. These discussions are essential if we are to build a defense force that remains capable, responsive, and sustainable in years to come. We also recognize the importance of prioritizing the welfare of the men and women in uniform. Behind every soldier stands sacrifice, commitment, and family. A modified and dignified defense force is one of the greatest assets any nation can possess. To all officers and delegates who will participate in the technical sessions of this conference, I encourage you to engage openly, honestly, and constructively. Let your deliberations produce practical and implementable solutions that will strengthen the Botswana Defence Force and enhance its readiness to respond to both present and emerging threats. Ladies and gentlemen, the responsibility of defending a nation is not carried by one institution alone. It requires unity of purpose across government, collaboration between institutions, and a collective national consciousness rooted in discipline, service, and patriotism. As we move forward, may this conference reaffirm our shared commitment to building a secure, resilient, and prosperous Botswana for future generations. In conclusion, I wish to once again thank all distinguished guests, senior officers, delegates, organizers, participants for your presence and your continued dedication to the Republic of Botswana. May this 21st Botswana Defence Force Strategic Conference be productive, impactful, and transformative. I thank you. Apula Lenel.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. May I now invite Chaplain General for an invocation. Subsequent to that, the Commander will lead the Commander-in-Chief, his entourage, and the conference delegates for a group photo and refreshments. Chaplain General, sir. Sir.
So may I request Chief Chaplain to come to say grace.
We will go for refreshments first. Thereafter, we'll go for a group photo.
Long, sir. Thank you, sir. May we kindly receive the blessings of the Lord with believing hearts. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord's face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May all His peace, love that surpasses all understanding be upon all of us from now and forevermore. Amen.
May we rise.